We've coordinated. So, Magda, do you do the introductions and we'll
Sure,
go from
we'll
there?
start here. Hello, hi, I'm Mugdha. Thank you for coming here and joining us. Do you want to talk about your brain injury?
Well, would you like to start off telling us, how you got it and what it is?
What I've got?
Yes, what's your brain injury?
I've got what they call, I had a brain hemorrhage. That's what I actually had. It just came on. They don't know why or how it happened, and I don't even know why. But I think leading up to the brain hemorrhage, I had been working tremendously, really hard, and was really sort of stressed. So that could be part of it, but I do not know.
How long ago was it?
December 2021. This occurred in December 2021.
What do you remember about when it happened?
I can remember right up until, I can't remember when the ambulance came, but I can remember what I was doing on that day. It was the day after Boxing Day, and I was due back at work on the Wednesday to cover. And I promised myself that I was going to bake some passion cake to take to work. So I'd gone to Waitrose and bought all the ingredients, got home, and I felt really tired, and I just thought, I don't think I can do this. And a relative said to me, don't bother to do the baking, just leave it. If you're tired and you don't want to do it, just do it. So I remember just sort of sitting around, and then I was sort of maybe dozing off a bit, and then I remember preparing for work, because I was actually preparing for work and packing my bags and getting my laptop ready and everything. And then all of a sudden I just felt like someone had hit me in the back of my head with a hammer. And for me, I didn't know what it was, because I sort of kind of like went down, and I thought, oh my God, but the pain was so intense that I was kind of crying, and I remember saying, God, please, I'm not going to go down. And I couldn't even pick up the phone to call anyone, because I was in shock and I was disorientated. But then coincidentally, my daughter, who had popped out to do something with her friend, decided to come back. So when she came back, she saw me disorientated and obviously scared, crying, and every time I was trying to sit down, it felt like a pole was going up in my neck, and I kept on holding down. I said, my neck is breaking, and I was losing consciousness because I couldn't breathe. So from there, the last thing I remember was just vomiting, and I can't remember what happened after that until I woke up in hospital.
So how long afterwards did you wake up in hospital?
I can't even remember that. All I know is that I was taken to intensive care. I went to one hospital first because my daughter called my other daughter, and she came. She said she was trying to persuade them that I needed to go to hospital. So they took me to one hospital, and then from there they said, well, we've got to transfer. She couldn't go. So she said by the time she cleaned up and everything, they rang her back and said, look, we've got to take your mom because she's got bleeding in the brain. So we have to take her back, take her down there. And from there, I don't even remember being in the ambulance. I can't remember anything whatsoever. Nothing from there.
Okay, but you remember what happened before, like you explained us?
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
So what do you remember about coming to? What do you remember about coming to and sort of coming back to awareness?
Coming back to awareness, it took me a while because I was in intensive care, and then from intensive care you go into the rehab. And all I can remember is that waking up with all these tubes inside of me and not being able to move, get up, can't talk. And it was just the fear. I remember feeling a little bit fearful, thinking, what is happening? But then the pain was just so bad that, you know, you try to get up, your head is just, you can't move.
Were you able to recognize your family when you saw them, your daughters?
Well, no, I don't, because my daughter said she was there, but I can't remember her being there.
So at that point, did you then lose consciousness again, or you were sedated? Or?
I think maybe I was heavily sedated,
Mm.
because I cannot remember. They're telling me, she's saying to me that she was there, but I cannot remember her being there. There's a lot of things I can't remember. I've kind of like lost that memory.
So they remember you being awake.
They
and
remember it partly, yeah.
Yeah. So but you don't remember any of that.
Can't
So after
remember.
that, what's your next memory after that?
My next memory after that is being in hospital, in treatment, and trying to, believing that I could get out of bed and walk. So I got up, tried to walk, and I realised I can't walk. It's almost like I was paralysed on one side, and again the pain. So obviously, it's being taken in a wheelchair, taken to the toilet. Everything has to be done for you. My mobility, can't even go to the bathroom yourself, and just being bedbound. And I think that was the scary part.
So how long did that last? Because obviously now you're mobile, you're up and about and
Yeah.
walking. So how sort of when did it start to get better?
Okay, I was in hospital for over a month, and then I got discharged home with care packages, and from there it was more or less everything was being done for me, because again there's not much I could do in terms of I couldn't make myself a cup of tea. I wouldn't be able to go and cook myself a breakfast. So I had carers coming in that was helping me, and plus with, going to the bathroom. And things started to get a little bit better, because then I had physio, occupational therapy, which they helped to direct the carers, the type of care that I need. And when I started being mobile within the home, which that was good, because then I could walk in with a limp, but walking around in the house, I couldn't go outside. It started to feel a little bit better, but again, it's this fear that I was scared to be on my own, because what kept flashing back is what I'd been through and the pain, and I was thinking, what if it comes back again? So I was always not wanting to be alone, if that's...
How long did that last? Do you still have that, or does that bit better now?
I'd say that lasted for, I'm be quite open and honest, that lasted for at least, I'd say about 8-9 months.
Mm.
The fear of being alone, because I'm thinking, if I'm alone in the house and there's no one around, and I go through that same thing, because you become traumatized. When something like this happens, you're traumatized. But as times went on, I had really good package in place, because I started getting involved with, Fabi helped me from the beginning, because I was having counselling, because at the time you feel isolated, you don't know what to say, you're thinking, are you the only one that's going through this kind of, because I've never been in association with others with brain injury. You hear about it, but until it happens to you, and plus because you're not able to go out and to meet people within the home, you're isolated. So Fabi helped me to re-establish myself and to try to kind of understand what brain injury is and what had happened to me, and it helped to actually alleviate some of those fears that I had inside. And then I had counselling, and I had psychology, a psychologist which was involved with me with rehab on the cognitive skills, which the cognitive skills rehab was really good because that helped me to understand things that I needed to, how to manage myself and what strategies I can put in place, like when I become frustrated, fatigued, anxious, even depressed, because sometimes, you know, you get very emotional. And I think one of the things as well is not in communicating. I had to be slow because my speech, it's almost like it was affected. It wasn't coherent. And I had to stop and think about what I was saying. And if I was talking and you interrupt me, I can't remember where to go on. So that was, for me, was a bit worrying, because I thought, the first thing came to my mind, I've got dementia. And the hospital said to me, no, you haven't got dementia. It's a part of your injury, but it will come. And with the cognitive rehab, that should help you to start beginning to understand, and meeting with other people in the group that have been through exactly the same thing. And that kind of helped me a lot, because you're talking to people who have been through the same thing, and you're able to understand, okay, it's not just me that's going through that, and it's normal to feel that way.
Can we revisit some of those? So, you know, what we're interested in, you know, all the cognitive aspects, as you know. So you've mentioned a couple of them, so we'd like to come back on those and dig a little bit deeper. So should we start with language?
Yes,
Yeah?
sure, yeah.
So
How do you think your language was affected, or did you see or observe any difference after the injury?
It did, because my brain tells me something, but what comes out was something different, because I couldn't construct, it might sound, but I couldn't construct a sentence, and I couldn't have sort of a normal conversation. I can't have a conversation with you because I have to think about what I'm actually saying. So it's something that I had to kind of relearn, retrain. And I did have an assessment at the hospital to see how much I can remember, and that actually helped me to. And I think that's when the doctor made the referral onto the rehab to help me with my cognitive skills.
So have you had speech therapy?
I had a little bit of speech therapy. That's just to help me to gather things together, because I just couldn't remember things. My memory had just gone, and I was getting a lot of brain fog, and I was thinking, what's happening here?
So when thinking about language in a bit more detail, so when we talk, we have an idea, we have a thought, and then we put it into words in our head, and then we have to say the words. Which bits of those, were there any particular parts of that you would say were affected? So you're able to think in your head, but then formulate the words and say the words, and including obviously sentence construction in that. What's your experience what was your experience when you were really struggling, when you were trying to speak?
For me, it was, it's almost like not understanding what's been said, and I had to have it repeated to me, because my brain wasn't, it's like it wasn't functioning. So even though I hear what you're saying, but I couldn't construct it in a sentence or talk it out. So what I was doing, I was making little notes and writing and trying to keep a lot of post-its and things to try to remember things, because it would go into my head and then it's gone.
So this is when people are talking to you, you hear it, you know they're speaking to you, but then you can't hold on to the meaning of what they've just said. Is that?
I can't hold on to the meaning and the information. It's the information.
So you know what they're saying to you when they're telling you, but then it's gone.
But then it just disappears. And I have to think, what did you just say?
So if you hear it and you write it, then you can read it afterwards and then it comes back?
It does come back, because then once I've written it down or keep a note of what you've said, the other thing I used to do as well is recording. If you say something, I'm recording so I can play it back and listen to what's been said.
So does that mean that if you're having a conversation with someone, so say you know if you had advice for when you were really struggling, or maybe even now, because obviously you're still it's always getting better, isn't it? What would your advice be to someone who was working with someone who's just had a stroke, with a patient who's just had a stroke? How did you need people to communicate with you to help you?
I think one of the things for me, it was the person themselves not understanding what you've been through. They don't know what brain injury is, so they look at it as if, I don't understand what is going on here. So it's trying to understand and trying to take your time and be patient. You have to be patient, because that person is struggling, and I think this is where the frustration comes in and the fatigue comes in, because they're not understanding what you are going through, and it's just be patient and just take their time just to listen and to understand what you're saying.
So was this only while you were talking to someone, or even while you were watching movies or shows?
That's the other thing, my concentration lapse. If I'm reading a book or I'd read it and then I find I had to put it down because I'd get tired or it wasn't making sense. So I had to sort of, listening was a little bit easier. I had to put it down, and watching the television, in the beginning I couldn't follow anything, because, and not only that, it aches your head as well, because your vision. So my vision, it wasn't exactly going, but I had some problems. So staring at a screen, that would just do my head in. I couldn't kind of understand, so I had to stop. But yeah, my concentration span had lapse. It was slow.
So can we, before we go into a bit more into concentration, can we think about memory broadly? What's your memory like now? I have still got to write everything. I have got to write down. My memory has improved, but it's still, sometimes you do have a little bit of brain fog. And for me, to get over that, I do a lot of writing, a lot of post-its around, so I'm constantly writing. So think about memory. So if we break memory down into different aspects, how much can you remember from your life before you had the hemorrhage, before the ABI? Is that all the same? Has it changed? Have you lost any of that information?
Going back, you seem to remember going back, because it's the current stuff things that you don't remember.
So you wouldn't say you've forgotten anything from your life before. It's mostly all there. I'd
say the majority is there. I can remember from going back, but it's the current things that's happened.
So when you say current, do you mean since the injury?
Since the injury, yeah. That is a little bit vague.
So you struggle to. So if we talked next week, you would struggle to remember what's happened this week, or you struggle to remember last month. What's the sort of the timescale and the quality of those memories? Timescale
in terms of my memory is improving, because I would say, because I do a lot of reading, and I'm constantly reading now and trying to retain information. And retaining the information for me is by writing and repeating, and repeating. So I'm retaining more, and I'm actually training my brain again. But it doesn't mean to say that, because I notice sometimes I'm thinking something happened, and I said, what was it? I can't remember, and I'm thinking, did I write that down? So yes, it's still there. I don't think it ever goes away. There's always going to be a bit of a memory loss there.
What about remembering to do things in the future? So, you know, tomorrow you need to do something. What's the chances of you remembering that, and how do you go about that?
I keep a diary, and I have to write again. So I have to keep a diary. If I've got appointments, I've got to keep a diary. I wouldn't, because I know I wouldn't remember, because it's not, my memory is not 100%.
So those are unusual things. And what about usual things? So during the day, I don't know, things like putting the
Eating.
You know, eating a meal, putting
Calling someone.
recipes. Well, we'll come to recipes.
I'll give you a bit of, you know, I know it is improving, but I can remember I did something terrible because I was trying to make a meal, and I put the oven on, and it was in there, and I sat back down. I didn't remember it was in the oven, and it was burning, and I didn't remember. So that gave me a scare. So I thought, I'm not doing any cooking, because that was quite frightening. You know, I'm leaving the cooker on as well, leaving the gas on. But now I make sure, you know, how I deal with that is that if I put the cooker on, I make sure I switch it off straight away. Or if I put the oven on, I make sure that I can't walk away and leave it. I have to make sure that it's turned off. But I keep going back and checking and going back and checking. I'm constantly checking to make sure that things are off.
Do you want to talk about cooking?
Yeah, sure. So when you say cooking, do you remember your recipes which you used to make back, like before 2021 when the incident took place? Do you still remember those recipes?
Vaguely, sort of. I did try doing passion cake, and normally I would remember the recipe and remember the weight. Now I have to look at the recipe, look at the weight, and I keep going over and over it again. I can't remember it off like I used to before. It was automatic in my head.
So when you're cooking, because obviously, you know, if you think about cooking, it's very executive, isn't it? It's got lots of executive function, so lots of planning, lots of, you know, focusing, concentration, attention. Are you able to cook like you used to? So you've said you have to keep looking back for weights and for things like that, but you're able to keep track? Are you able to remember the ingredients? How does that work out? It's the challenge. Cooking is the big challenge.
It's a challenge, and the easiest way to do it is if you know if I know I'm going to be cooking something, I get all the ingredients, everything, and I put them in a pile, so they're all there. So I don't have to think. Whereas before, I'd put something on and I'd take it from the stack. That I most probably forget to put something in. So what I do, I prepare it. Everything has to construct. You've got to prepare. And I put it there, so it's all there once. I don't forget anything.
So you've developed some incredible strategies. I mean, you've been so proactive in terms of finding different ways of doing things, because obviously executive function and concentration. So I just want to talk about concentration and you know how, because so you work, don't you? You've gone back to work part-time, but it's quite demanding, isn't it? It takes a lot of concentration, lots of attention to detail. So I'm just wondering, you know, what are you like now with concentration? I know you've mentioned fatigue. I don't know if you want to talk about that at the same time, but what's concentration like, and you know, the times of day that you're better, and what things do you particularly struggle with?
I find in the morning for me, because I'm an early riser, so in the morning for me seems to be much better than in the afternoon, because in the afternoon I start slowing down and I'm more likely to perhaps maybe forget more things as the day goes along. So now with my concentration, again for me, being at work is constantly keeping those notes, keeping things, it has to be organised so that I don't forget anything. Everyone says to me, you're writing a lot, you're writing a lot, you're writing a lot, you're writing too much. But for me, I have to do that in order to keep functioning, because I don't want to, my brain sees and I stop functioning. So that is the way I deal with things, and everyone has got to try and understand. That's how I work, and that's how I construct myself, and that's helped me to remember things.
Yeah. So basically, you make checklists and you keep on ticking off whatever needs
Yeah.
to be done to keep yourself on
track.
On track.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the fatigue? When does
Yeah.
that, what's that like? Tell us about that.
I notice it's not as bad as it was before, but I used to get very fatigued and frustrated because I'm explaining myself, I have to keep explaining myself, and at one point I was saying, I've just had a brain hemorrhage and I just can't remember things. I'm trying, I'm really, really trying. And then it's the expectation, people expect things of you, and I can't deliver as I used to deliver, so I get fatigued and frustrated because people are lacking an understanding of what exactly happened to you. And I think that's what has happened when people do not know or are educated about what brain injury is. And I think that is my problem, so I just get frustrated. And sometimes I get a bit cross because I notice I'm not short-fused. You know, whereas before I was sort of calm, sort of mellow, now I tend to get a bit more, I don't know, maybe it's agitated or a bit frustrated if you don't get it right, and I've got to sort of keep myself on check with that.
So you think that your emotions have been affected?
It has a great deal, because I do get quite emotional sometimes. You know, like sometimes you burst into floods of tears. And I did have counselling as well for quite a while to help me with those emotions. And when I'm feeling down or when I'm feeling anxious or depressed, how do I manage it? Of course, I've got strategies for those as well. But it's, yeah, I do get emotional. I do.
More than before? And, you know,
I'd say, yeah, more than before. Yeah.
what about your personality? Would you say your personality's changed?
Yeah, my personality has changed. I'm a little bit more harsher than before. And I don't want to make excuses because I've had a brain injury, but my personality, it definitely has changed. And I'm more sort of a bit more direct. Whereas before I might not say something, now I do, and a bit more outspoken.
Is that a conscious decision because obviously of the situation, or would you say that, you know, your actual emotional regulation has changed? Is it that you're less? Would you have been sort of more embarrassed about saying something before, and now the embarrassment has gone, or is it more a case of thinking, actually, I've just got to get this done because, you know, I struggle with these things? So is it sort of a conscious change, or do you think it's a result of the brain injury?
I think perhaps maybe it could be a bit of both, and I think it's to do a bit with the brain injury as well, because before you know, you have to stop and you've got to think before you do something. And it's not that I don't stop and think now, but it's less. And do I worry about it? Sometimes I worry about it, you know, and I do worry a lot. And then I have to stop and think to myself and kind of sort of keep reflecting. I do a lot of reflection as well, reflecting on a lot of the things that I'm doing and why I'm doing them.
So do you think this change, emotional change, is affecting your relationship with others, your friends, family, anyone, people at work?
I'd hope it's not, but I think it might have, because I have said some things that normally I wouldn't have said, being a bit more direct. Whereas I think it's because of the change, because they don't know me like that. I'm normally a yes person. Yes, everything's okay, that's fine, I'll do it. Yes, okay, that's fine, I'll do it. But now I can't do it, and I'm not doing it.
There's a bit of protection there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Or a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Should we talk about perception? Do you want and sensation and sensory?
Yeah, we can, sure.
Yeah?
So, after the incident took place, do you think your sensory parts, or your taste, smell, vision, all these things, do you think they've been affected?
Certainly my sensation and my vision.
And vision.
Because
Yes.
Vision and hearing, yeah.
my vision it's not 100%, well, it was never 100%, but it does sometimes, I get a bit blurry, so that's affected. And in terms of, are we talking about mobility?
We'll talk about that in a minute, but
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
about sort of, has your taste of food or anything like that, or smells, anything changed?
I'm not
But
going to
you've
put it down to
noticed.
COVID, because I keep saying, no, it must be COVID. No, I do, because it certainly has changed, because I find that things didn't taste the same, I wasn't eating a lot, and I'm just, it's almost like a loss of appetite. But then I became addicted to chocolates. I think we spoke about
Easily
that
done.
before. And but this was a bad addiction.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's,
it was very bad addiction.
oh really? Oh,
Yeah.
it was a proper addiction. that
Proper addiction.
Eating far too much of it.
Big bar a day,
Mm.
every day. So it's there now. And I don't know if someone said it's something that's missing in your body. So that's why you needed to eat this chocolate. So the doctor's saying try dark chocolate, because rather than eating all this chocolate. And it could be also because I couldn't taste anything. I could taste the chocolate, but as with food, my taste was just wasn't there.
Has that come back, or is it?
It's come back a bit, but I still kind of feel my appetite is not. Food just doesn't taste the same anymore.
So the
Doesn't.
things you used to like before, or the dishes, or anything you really used to love, is that you don't like it anymore?
Yeah, don't eat much spicy things. I used to. So I've gone off spicy things. Certain foods, I've gone off that because it doesn't taste the same. So yeah, I've cut out quite a lot of things now.
Alright. And what do you think about your hearing? Do you think was that affected?
There was a problem at one point, and I was getting my balance wasn't there, and I was falling over quite a lot. And I thought it was the doctor says perhaps maybe it might be tetanus, but it was this constant. How can I describe it? It felt like, you know, when you go swimming
Yeah.
and you get water in the air and you get this echoing.
Yeah.
And it went on for quite a while, and my balance wasn't good at all, but eventually it went. So the problem is not, well, hopefully it doesn't come back, but
Well, that's a good thing that it's gone now.
Mobility?
Yeah. Yeah. So we spoke about that you used to feel fatigued, and so how, like, what did you feel after coming back? Like, was it normal to come back to the life and getting back to your routine and walking and How did it feel?
Yeah, and what's your mobility?
My mobility, as you can
Generally,
see,
and movement.
it's not very good because one side is still heavy and weak, and I've got to, for protection and mainly outside, I mean I do have a walking stick and that's for my balance, because I think I'm perhaps maybe a bit afraid to, in case I want to lose my balance and fall over, because I used to fall over quite a lot. But it's getting better, it's getting a little bit better, but it's still there. So whether or not, I don't think it's going to, maybe it's improve as much as it needs to improve.
If we think about cooking again, are you able to, as in what, you're able to cut and chop and lift and all the different things that we have to do when we're cooking, are those all back to normal?
I wouldn't say 100% back to normal, because I do have help at home, an assistant, but it's not the same, because I have to be mindful that, lifting, one side is weak, this side is weak, so I can't lift as much as I, used to, and I have to be careful and be mindful, because obviously my blood pressure as well is affected.
What do you think about traveling? Is it normal going up the stairs, coming down, the hustle?
Going up the stairs, and I try, and I'm trying to be very independent, but it is a bother, because obviously I've got a limp on one side, so my mobility is not 100%. But I am trying to not to let these things stop me from, living a life.
How are you with going out and about and with sort of busy spaces and noise and people, I mean, going out for meals, things like that? Is that the same as before, or has that changed?
It has changed. It's getting better. I think one of my problems was I was a bit scared and frightened being around a lot of people, because I know that my speech, and I was a bit slow and understanding and getting fatigued, and being in the crowd and communicating, I was a bit sort of scared and frightened in case I don't get something right, and then I get anxious about it, and the anxiety will creep in.
I think we've covered most of the topics, but as part of as part of this project, obviously, because it's about co-creation, so we've done focus groups of people who have brain injury and asked them what questions they thought we should ask. So, do you want to ask one of those questions?
So one of the questions is: has anything positive come out of your injury?
A lot of positive has come out of my injury, because it's made me understand more about brain injury and its people, and be more mindful and not judgmental, and trying to educate myself also, so that I can help others. So it's been my experience. I'm able to pass that on to others.
And have we missed anything in terms of, we've tried to talk about lots of different ways that your life has been affected, obviously with a bit of a focus on the cognitive. Is there anything that we've not talked about that you feel that, is important for people to know that has happened, that's the change after the brain injury?
I think one thing, I don't know how valid this is, but is the support. What support is in place? Because often that's not, it's almost like it's not tailored for. Or if there are families, they think, family, you got family, so that's okay. But we're talking about like outside support. It's very, very important, because sometimes people with brain injury, they're frightened, they're scared to go out, they might lose their way. I mean, traveling was one of my big issues, because I was scared in case I get lost. I might not remember the route, where to go, how to get back.
How are you with maps and routes? Can you find your way around? We forgot to ask you that.
It's getting better.
Can you find your way around a supermarket?
Supermarket was a doddle because I was scared and I wasn't doing a list. My daughter just said, go in the shop, do the shop, see what you can do. And I'm walking around the aisle and what did I need? And I'd walk back, can't remember. So always remember to make a list of the things that you need.
And can you find your way around the supermarket? Do you know where things are?
I'm getting used to it, so I just go to one store, and that's where it goes. If I go to any other store, it's a problem.
And what about round your local area? And if you were, guiding someone, or you're in the car and trying to get someone to somewhere, are you able to navigate?
Navigation, it's getting better,
Mm.
but that was also a problem because being at home, when I was at home for such a long time, when I came out, I was completely lost because things had changed. I saw all these buildings, and I'm thinking, I don't know where I am, where am I? And I'll give you an example. I decided to go to the local shopping centre by myself because I thought I need to be able to do this alone and see how I'm going to be able to get on. So I got into the store, and then all of a sudden it felt like just everything was coming down on me, and I was in the store, and I was crying. I was so emotional because I couldn't cope. So the store manager had to call my daughter. So I was in there and I was just crying, everything had just changed. And I think I became overwhelmed.
Did you feel lost?
I did.
Do you actually sort of wondering where you were and
Totally lost.
complete confusion?
Totally, and
Does that
disorientated.
Does that still happen, that level of disorientation?
Not so much now. I think if I went to a strange place, I think maybe that might come back. But it's something to do with, I don't know, fear and frightened in case something happens. And that doesn't go away because even though I've had some people say, oh, you've only just, came off hospital in, say, beginning of February. So with some people, they've had a brain injury for a few years. Mine is only just kind of a couple of years. And because of I'm being positive, and I think that is what's helping and carrying me. And plus I'm trying to do a lot of things because I sing a lot as well, and I'm back to singing. So I'm back in my choir, and one of the fear was because I sing in the choir, and we do performances, and I was scared that I won't remember. I will not remember the words. But to my surprise, it just came flowing back.
Can you learn new pieces?
It's singing is something, once you start singing, it comes back. So all the new pieces that we have, it's coming back.
So do you remember the old pieces as well then?
The old pieces is come back.
Coming back.
Yes.
Do you read music?
A little bit. I'm not really.
I'm just interested in whether that changed as well, because obviously you can still read and write,
Yeah.
and I was wondering whether the reading music is the same.
I'm reading the music because I also sing in the church choir, and we sing with notes, and couldn't remember some of the notes when it goes down, and when it goes up, and when it's flat, and when it's break, and when it's. But my music organist is really good, and all the others in the choir. So everyone's really helpful, and it comes back. But it's something that you have to keep practicing.
Just making sure that you're not the one that's singing when no one else is singing.
Yes.
That's always my fear.
Yes.
That's the one thing to avoid.
Do you think that music is helping you cope up?
Music definitely has helped, and when I woke up in intensive care, I was singing.
Do you remember that, or you've been told that?
I was told that I was singing.
Wow,
And I thought, wow.
that's amazing.
Well, that'll definitely help you cope up.
Yeah. So music is very good and it's ideal. It takes away the emotions and it just gives you a sense of being there and your family.
So I think we've probably covered most of the things that we wanted to
Yes.
talk about. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in. It was so nice talking to you and getting to know about your injury. We're wishing you luck and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being so candid and so open and sharing everything.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.